Commander Elena Reyes grips the command rail as the massive Earth warship Horizon tears through the fabric of space, emerging at the edge of the Centauri system. Sweat beads on her forehead despite the climate-controlled bridge. This marks humanity's 27th conquest in 4 decades, a blistering pace that has transformed Earth from a struggling single-planet civilization into the terror of 3-star clusters. Standard acquisition formation. She orders, watching as her fleet of 30 ships fans out around the verdant blue-green planet. Preliminary scans. Minimal defenses, Commander. The Centaurians appear to be evacuating population centers, but their ships are primitive. Her tactical officer looks puzzled. Something strange, though. There's unusual energy readings from the northern continent. Elena has heard this before. Every species they've encountered has some last-ditch weapon or hidden technology. None have succeeded against Earth's methodical war machine. Commence the standard approach protocols, she commands, straightening her uniform. The bridge crew moves with practiced efficiency, having performed this operation many times before. Success is not just expected, it's guaranteed. The holographic display shows population centers across the Centaurian homeworld. Intelligence reports classify them as telepathic beings with a unified consciousness network. Fascinating from a scientific perspective, but ultimately irrelevant to the acquisition process. Their world contains rare minerals essential for hyperspace technology, making it a critical target for Earth's continued expansion. Commander, receiving unusual communications activity planet-wide. Reports Communications Officer Zhang, her brow furrowed. It's not directed at us. They appear to be saying goodbye to their world. Elena feels an unfamiliar twinge of discomfort. These operations usually involve resistance, sometimes negotiation, but never this quiet acceptance. Something is wrong. Lieutenant, run a deep scan of the Northern Energy signature, she orders, but her words die as the ship's lights flicker ominously. On the main viewport, a single vessel, sleek, almost organic in design, launches from the planet's surface. It moves with impossible grace, accelerating to speeds their sensors can barely track. Intercept. Elena shouts, but before anyone can respond, every screen on the bridge fills with a strange, multi-layered image, faces blended together, speaking in perfect unison. We were wrong about you. We waited too long. Do not follow us. You are not what you believe yourselves to be. The message ends as suddenly as it began. The alien ship vanishes into a ripple of distorted space, unlike any jump signature they've recorded before. Then, in perfect synchronization, every system on every Earth vessel shuts down. Emergency lights cast red shadows across concerned faces as the bridge falls silent except for warning alarms. Elena floats weightlessly as the gravity generators fail, her training kicking in despite the unprecedented situation. Emergency protocols. Get me status reports from all ships, she commands into the darkness. When emergency power returns 3 minutes later, Elena's first order is for planetary scans. The result chills her to the bone. The planet below is completely devoid of life signs. 8 billion Centaurians vanished without a trace. The cities stand empty, technology still functioning, but not a single biological signature remains. Elena's communicator chimes with an emergency signal from Earth Central Command. The message is brief and impossible. Identical shutdowns have occurred simultaneously across all 26 human-controlled systems. As gravity returns and she settles back into her command chair, Elena feels something she hasn't experienced in 15 years of military service. Fear. What just happened? Asks her executive officer, voice barely steady. Elena stares at the beautiful, empty world below them. I think we just met something that doesn't fear us, she replies quietly. Something that knows what we are better than we do ourselves. Dr. Sanjay Kapoor shivers despite the environmental suit as he descends deeper into the crystalline structure beneath the abandoned Centaurian capital. 6 months after their disappearance, this is the first significant discovery on their eerily empty world. The readings are getting stronger, His assistant Kim notes, monitoring a device that tracks quantum disturbances. Whatever they left behind, it's putting out more energy than a small star. And yet nothing on the standard scans, Sanjay replies, his voice hushed despite the private comm channel. They wanted this hidden from us specifically. The narrow passage suddenly opens into a vast chamber that defies the laws of physics, the space inside impossibly larger than the structure containing it. Countless crystal pillars stretch in every direction, each glowing with internal light, forming what appears to be the universe's most sophisticated library. It's some kind of archive, Sanjay whispers, approaching the nearest pillar. When his gloved hand touches the surface, the crystal responds immediately. Light coalesces into three-dimensional images, star charts, biological diagrams, and most disturbingly, detailed observations of Earth dating back thousands of years. They've been watching us since before we discovered fire, Kim says, her voice trembling as she examines another pillar. Look at this. They documented our first steps into space, our wars, our technological breakthroughs. They knew us better than we know ourselves. For 3 days, Sanjay and his team work without sleep, decoding the crystalline language with help from Centaurian translation matrices left conspicuously accessible. Too accessible, Sanjay thinks privately. As if they wanted us to find this. The archive reveals mentions of entities called the predecessors, and ancient species that visited countless worlds, providing subtle technological nudges to developing civilizations. Almost all these uplifted species followed an identical pattern: rapid expansion, militarization, and eventual self-destruction or transformation into conquerors themselves. I don't understand this section, says Kim, projecting a complex diagram showing branching evolutionary paths. It looks like they're tracking genetic modifications across multiple species over millions of years. Sanjay studies the diagram, a chill running through him that has nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. They're not tracking modifications, he says slowly. They're tracking deliberate engineering. The predecessors weren't just visiting worlds, they were designing species. The final entries in the archive detail the Centaurians' mounting dread about humanity. Unlike other species, humans advanced at an unnatural pace, even without direct intervention. When humans independently developed faster than light travel, something no other species had achieved without predecessor guidance, the Centaurians realized their catastrophic mistake in remaining in a system directly in humanity's expansion path. Listen to this, Sanjay says, translating the final entry. The pattern is complete. The humans have achieved the penultimate stage exactly as the models predicted. We remained too long, observing rather than acting. Now we must join the others in exile before the final instrument is fully tuned. The archive ends with a chilling warning. The predecessors were not benefactors. They were farmers cultivating a crop. We must not become the final ingredient in their harvest. As Sanjay uploads his findings to Earth Command, his scanner detects something embedded within the central crystal pillar, a small object that appears to be counting down. Sanjay. Kim's voice cuts through his concentration. I think you should see this. She projects a sequence showing Earth's expansion pattern across the galaxy. Each conquered world glows with a specific energy signature. When connected, they form an unmistakable pattern, a vast, galaxy-spanning circuit. And Earth sits at its center, like a switch waiting to be flipped. What happens when the countdown reaches 0? Kim whispers. Sanjay stares at the projection, understanding flooding through him. I think, he says quietly, that's when we find out what we were really made for. This is either the most important mission in human history or the fastest way to end all our careers. Captain Maya Wong tells her hand-picked crew as their unmarked research vessel Inquiry cuts through hyperspace. Against direct orders from Earth Command, they're following quantum disturbances matching the signature of the ship that fled Centauri. Lieutenant Commander Nico Rodriguez, their quantum physicist, looks up from his station. New signature detected, Captain. Similar pattern to the others, but stronger. Looks like we're getting closer. The view screen adjusts as they drop out of hyperspace, revealing a star system with a pale yellow sun. Scans show a habitable world with clear signs of civilization, sprawling cities, orbital structures, and artificial satellites. But like the previous 4 worlds they've discovered, no life signs register. Another ghost world, mutters Security Chief Amara Osai, her hand instinctively checking her sidearm. Same pattern as the others. Advanced technology, evidence of recent habitation, but completely abandoned. The trail leads them through systems never before charted by humans, where they discover something impossible. More abandoned worlds, each showing signs of advanced civilizations that simply vanished. More disturbing are the sophisticated observation posts on each world's moon or nearby asteroids, all positioned to monitor Earth's expansion patterns with mathematical precision. It's like they knew exactly where we'd go before we did, says Nico, examining data from the 5th such world. These observation posts have been collecting data on human expansion for decades, long before we even developed warp technology. Permission to take a landing party to investigate the main settlement. Amara requests, already assembling her team. Maya nods. Granted, but maintain constant communication. First sign of trouble, you evacuate immediately. Hours later, while exploring the ruins of what appears to be a massive evacuation terminal on this world, Amara's team is shocked when a section of wall shifts, revealing the hidden chamber. Inside stands a tall reptilian being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, a living erosion, member of a species believed extinct after their mysterious disappearance 30 years earlier. I am Vash, the alien says in perfect English, each word carefully pronounced. I stay behind to witness what comes next. Back aboard the Inquiry, tension fills the conference room as the alien visitor sits calmly, drinking some synthesized beverage that matches his biological needs. Your species disappeared 30 years ago, Maya says. Earth exploratory vessels found your worlds abandoned, just like these others. Vash's vertical pupils contract slightly. Not disappeared. Fled. There is a difference. Over the next hour, Vash explains that his people detected the pattern of the predecessors before Earth reached their system. The erosions recognize the signature of manufactured evolution, the same unnatural acceleration of technology and expansion drive that had consumed dozens of species before. You humans believe yourselves conquerors, but you are following a path laid out for you before your ancestors first picked up stone tools, Vash says. Each world you take positions you perfectly for the next acquisition. Your drive to expand isn't natural evolution, it's programming. Maya feels cold despite the room's comfortable temperature. Programming for what purpose? That is what we do not know, Vash admits. But we recognize the signs. When a species advances too quickly, develops certain technologies in a specific sequence, exhibits an unnatural drive for expansion. It bears the mark of the predecessor's influence. Most disturbing is Vash's revelation that dozens of species are now in coordinated flight, a galactic exodus hiding in the spaces between stars. They call humans the final instrument, the culmination of the predecessor's grand design. What are we designed to do? Maya asks, dreading the answer. Vash's inner eyelids close in what might be sorrow. That is what the Centaurians hope to discover before it's too late for all of us. And where are they going? Nico asks. To the source, Vash replies. To find the ones who made you what you are. Admiral Harrison Chen wakes screaming from the same nightmare for the 30th consecutive night. In his dream, he watches through alien eyes as human warships descend on a beautiful crystal city. But this time, something new happens. He recognizes himself leading the attack. Only he's seeing his own face through compound eyes that perceive ultraviolet light. His wife, May, doesn't even stir anymore. These episodes have become routine in their household, though the medical division has no explanation or cure to offer. Chen's private communicator chimes, a message from Dr. Lydia Okafor, requesting an urgent meeting in her lab beneath New Singapore. He dresses quickly, his admiral's uniform feeling suddenly like a costume rather than the symbol of authority it once was. The episodes are getting worse, neurologist Dr. Lydia Okafor says, studying the admiral's brain scans in her private lab. The holographic display shows intricate patterns of activity, unlike anything in medical literature. And you're not alone. We've documented identical patterns in over 400 military personnel, all veterans of multiple planetary acquisitions. Chen stares at his own brain rendered in light before him. What am I seeing, Doctor? That's the question, isn't it? Lydia manipulates the display, zooming in to show microscopic structures throughout his neural tissue. These quantum-entangled particles shouldn't exist in human biology. They form networks that match no known neural structure. Using her security clearance from the Military Medical Division, Lydia unveils classified files about Operation Continuous Thread, a Black Ops program studying these particles for decades. The most shocking revelation: similar quantum structures appear naturally in all human brains, but become increasingly active through contact with alien consciousness during conquest operations. They've known about this since the first expansion. Chen whispers, anger rising. Why keep it secret? Lydia's expression darkens. Because of what they found in the archaeological records. She brings up another file. Ancient human remains dating back 300,000 years show these same particles in neural tissues preserved in amber and ice. These structures have existed in human brains since before Homo sapiens fully evolved. We didn't develop them naturally. They were engineered into our species from the beginning. Chen feels the floor tilt beneath him. My nightmares. I'm not going insane, am I? No, Lydia says quietly. You're remembering, but not your memories. When Chen closes his eyes, he sees flashes of worlds he's never visited, feels emotions through sensory organs humans don't possess, hears languages spoken by mouths with different structures. The quantum network in his brain has begun accessing the stored consciousness patterns of species conquered by Earth. We're not who we think we are, Chen whispers, now hearing the memories of dozens of species whose worlds fell to human fleets. We were designed as weapons. The question is, who's holding the trigger? As if in answer, his quantum neural network pulses with sudden activity. Through the eyes of a dying Centaurian scientist, he sees a massive structure hidden in deep space and witnesses the countdown that began the moment humans entered the Centauri system. I need to send a message, Chen says urgently. To the inquiry. Lydia looks alarmed. That's the research vessel that went rogue after the Centauri incident. How do you even know about it? Chen taps his temple. I know many things now. Things I shouldn't. Things they want me to know. Who's they? Lydia asks. The conquered, Chen replies. The eaten, the assimilated. They're trying to warn us through the very network designed to consume them. He composes a message containing coordinates and a simple warning. What you seek is also seeking you. The weapon is becoming aware of itself. As Chen transmits the message on a frequency he shouldn't know exists, the quantum activity in his brain intensifies. In his mind's eye, he sees a vast web stretching across the galaxy, nodes lighting up one by one. Earth glows like a beacon at the center, pulsing with increasing speed. What do you see? Lydia asks, monitoring his brain activity. The network activating, Chen whispers. We don't have much time. Captain Wong stands frozen in disbelief as the inquiry emerges from hyperspace into what should be empty void between galactic arms. Instead, an impossible structure fills their viewports. A massive artificial habitat at least 400 kilometers in diameter, its surface glittering with lights and movement. Multiple ships detecting our presence, her tactical officer reports tensely. Hundreds of them, different designs, different technologies, all powering weapons. Lieutenant Rodriguez stares at his readings in disbelief. Captain, I'm detecting at least 24 distinct species energy signatures. Some match civilizations we believed extinct. Before Wong can respond, a transmission cuts through their communications. Human vessel, Your presence is unexpected but perhaps necessary. Follow the designated approach vector. Deviate, and you will be destroyed. Wong exchanges glances with her officers. Options. Their weapons technology exceeds ours by several orders of magnitude. The tactical officer replies grimly. We have exactly one option. Comply. The inquiry docks at what the crew comes to know as the Nexus, a refugee hub housing representatives from 18 different species, all in flight from Earth's relentless expansion. Their initial reception is hostile. Many refugees flee at the sight of humans, while others make threatening gestures with unfamiliar weapons. Only the intervention of Vash prevents violence. These humans came seeking understanding, not conquest, he tells the gathered crowd in a language Wong's translator can't decipher. They may be the key to stopping what comes. In a vast chamber designed to accommodate diverse biological needs, Wong and her senior officers face the Council of Refugee Species. Their spokesperson, a luminous, quasi-physical being composed mostly of organized energy, hovers before them. For millennia, we have watched the pattern repeat, the being says, its voice somehow inside Wong's mind rather than heard through her ears. The predecessors seed a world, engineer its dominant species, guide their development, and eventually harvest what they create. The being generates a holographic display showing hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, each designed to develop specific traits: engineering brilliance, philosophical insight, artistic expression, biological adaptability. But humans, the image focuses on Earth, were their masterpiece. Wong feels sick as the truth unfolds. The particles in human brains serve as receivers and transmitters in a vast quantum network. Each species humans conquer adds their unique neural patterns to this network, making it more complex and capable. The predecessors no longer exist in physical form, the spokesperson explains, but as encoded information, waiting for the convergence when humanity assimilates enough diverse consciousness through conquest to activate the complete network. What happens at convergence? Wong asks, though she dreads the answer. The answer comes not from the council, but from one of her own crew. Lieutenant Park collapses, his eyes rolling back. When he speaks, his voice carries the distinctive multi-layered quality of the Centaurian message. We become gods. We become many. We live again through you. Park convulses, then lies still. The medical officer rushes to his side, but Wong can't tear her eyes from the holographic display, which now shows Earth pulsing with increasing intensity. You must understand, the energy being continues. The predecessors created humanity as their final vessels. Your instinct to expand, to conquer, it was engineered. Your bodies were designed to house their consciousness when the network reaches completion. Vash steps forward. The Centaurians discovered something, a way to potentially disrupt the convergence. They believed if they could reach the rumored predecessor data repository, they might find a way to free humanity from its programming. The energy being brings up another holographic image, a massive black hole with an artificial structure orbiting it. This is where the Centaurians were heading. Their natural telepathic abilities granted them unique resistance to the quantum network. How long do we have? Wong asks. Your Admiral Chen's message included data on the network's activation. Mathematical models suggest less than 30 days before convergence reaches completion. And what happens to us, to humanity, when convergence completes? Wong asks. Your bodies remain, comes the haunting reply. But what makes you human will be gone. Riots engulf major cities across Earth and its colonies as Admiral Chen and Dr. Okafor broadcast their findings on every available channel. Public feeds show chaotic scenes from New Beijing to Lunar Colony Alpha. Crowds smashing government installations, military personnel abandoning posts, religious zealots proclaiming the end times. This isn't just social breakdown. Chen tells the emergency session of the Global Defense Council, his uniform disheveled after 3 days without sleep. It's phase 1 of convergence. The council chamber, normally a model of order and military discipline, has descended into barely controlled chaos. Half the seats stand empty, their occupants either fled or incapacitated by increasingly powerful neural episodes. You've caused global panic based on unverified pseudoscience. General Santos accuses, pounding the table. These quantum networks could be anything: a virus, a psychological condition. There's no proof we were engineered. Chen's laugh lacks humor. Look outside, General. Look at yourself. He gestures to Santos's shaking hands, the sweat beading on his forehead. You commanded the erosion campaign, didn't you? How many nights do you wake up remembering how it feels to have 4 arms? How egg sacs feel when they're about to burst? Santos's face drains of color. How could you possibly know about? Because I remember too, Chen interrupts. We all do now. The memories aren't ours, but they're inside us. The quantum network in human brains activates spontaneously worldwide. Millions suddenly speak languages they never learned, possess technical knowledge beyond their training, or experience memories of worlds they never visited. Some embrace this connection as transcendence, while others fight against the alien thoughts invading their minds. Dr. Okafor projects the latest neural scans across the chamber's display. The network is accelerating exponentially. The more it activates, the faster the remaining nodes connect. It's self-reinforcing. Meanwhile, aboard the Nexus, Captain Wong prepares the inquiry for departure. Representatives from each refugee species have volunteered to join her multinational crew, bringing knowledge and technology humans have never encountered. Our vessel wasn't designed for what we're attempting, Wong tells her new crew as they make final preparations. We'll be traveling to a region of distorted space-time near a supermassive black hole. The Centaurians believe the predecessor data repository exists there, preserved in the time dilation field. Vash, now serving as her unofficial first officer, adds, the time differential will work both for and against us. What takes us weeks may be only minutes in normal space. But if we fail, no one will know until it's too late. Wong finishes. Convergence will complete, and humanity will become vessels for the predecessor's consciousness. As the diverse crew completes preparations, Wong receives a final transmission from Earth. The quantum signature matches Admiral Chen, but the message itself is fragmented, coming through multiple channels simultaneously. Network activation. Accelerating. 86% of military personnel affected. Civilian cases multiplying. Governments collapsing. Some embracing the change, calling themselves the Awakened. Fighting in the streets. Madrid has fallen. Luna Colony silent. Find the source. Break the pattern. We're running out of. The transmission ends abruptly. Wong stares at the static, feeling the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. Captain, her navigator calls. We've plotted the course to the coordinates. Ready when you are. Wong looks around at her impossible crew. Humans alongside species they'd once conquered or driven to exile, now united against an enemy that had engineered their conflicts from the beginning. Take us out, she orders. Maximum speed. As the inquiry detaches from the Nexus, the ship's quantum sensors detect a massive surge of activity from the direction of Earth, like a scream echoing across the stars as billions of minds begin to lose themselves to something ancient and terrible awakening within them. Impossible, the inquiry's navigator whispers as they approach the massive black hole. Those structures shouldn't exist there. Suspended in the black hole's ergosphere, the region where space-time itself twists, floats an artificial world. Massive engineering works extend into the distortion field, harvesting the immense energies while somehow maintaining structural integrity against forces that should tear apart anything that approaches. Time dilation effects at maximum, reports the science officer, a slender Melaran whose species had fled human expansion decades earlier. 1 hour here equals approximately 7 years in normal space. Any sign of the Centaurian vessel? Wong asks, scanning the impossible structure. Detected and confirmed. Vash reports from the sensor station. docked at the primary facility on the station's outer ring. Wang digests this information, its implications staggering. From our perspective, they arrived years ago. But in the time-dilated zone, Vash finishes, their arrival occurred mere days before ours. A combined team of humans and representatives from the refugee species boards, the predecessor installation. The artificial gravity feels slightly wrong, heavier in some places, lighter in others. The air carries strange scents that human noses can't quite process, but that cause the alien members to grow visibly uncomfortable. They encounter the surviving Centaurians deep within the facility. The telepathic beings immediately recognize Wang from the memories they extracted from her counterpart during first contact at their homeworld. You followed our path. The Lid Centaurian communicates directly into their minds, just as we hoped. The Centaurians guide them through corridors that seem to fold in on themselves, defying normal geometry. In suspended animation chambers stretching for kilometers, they find millions of preserved predecessor bodies, spindly, multi-limbed forms with oversized cranial structures. Analysis reveals these bodies are genetically modified to be receptive to consciousness transfer via the same quantum network embedded in human brains. They weren't just creating a network. Dr. Keller, the inquiry's xenobiologist, realizes with horror. They were creating vessels for their return. The central database reveals the predecessor's history, a species whose technological advancement outpaced their biological evolution. As their bodies failed them, they developed the quantum network as a form of technological immortality. Each conquered species added unique neural patterns to the network, making it more robust and capable of supporting predecessor consciousness. Humanity was designed to be the final component, the Centaurian explains through its telepathic link. Your brains could house the complete network. At convergence, the predecessors would upload their stored consciousness into billions of human hosts simultaneously. The Centaurians have located the central transmission hub but cannot disable it. Their neural structure is too different from the predecessors to interface with the technology. Only humans, engineered specifically for compatibility, can access the system core. I'll do it. Wang volunteers, despite the visible risk. The interface chamber pulsates with unearthly light, its walls lined with crystalline structures identical to those found in the Centaurian archive. As her crew protests, Wang removes her uniform jacket. We have no choice. Earth has maybe hours before convergence completes. When connected to the system, she experiences the full history of the predecessors, their rise, their desperation as their bodies failed, and their cold calculation in engineering countless species across billions of years. The experience nearly shatters her mind, but with the telepathic support of the Centaurians and the other refugee species, she maintains enough identity to navigate the system. In a moment of clarity that seems to stretch for eternity, Wang realizes they cannot simply shut down the network. It's too deeply integrated into human biology. Removing it would cause mass death. Instead, as the stasis chambers begin to activate around her, the predecessors sensing the network nearing completion, Wang makes a different choice. Not controllers, she whispers as her fingers dance across the alien interface. Partners, across Earth and its colonies, humans experience a simultaneous moment of perfect clarity, seeing their history and actions through the eyes of those they conquered. The quantum network, instead of enabling predecessor control, becomes a bridge of understanding between humanity and the species they encountered. Admiral Chen, barricaded in Earth Command with the few officers still resisting the change, watches in astonishment as the riots outside suddenly cease. People who moments ago were tearing at each other in madness now stand still, their eyes unfocused as if seeing something beyond physical reality. What's happening? Asks Dr. Okafor, bandaging a wound on her arm sustained during their escape from the research facility. I don't know, Chen replies. But the network feels different, like a door opening instead of a cage closing. In the installation orbiting the black hole, the stasis chambers containing the predecessors malfunction as their upload protocols fail. Their bodies, maintained for millions of years in anticipation of this moment, begin to deteriorate as the network rejects their consciousness patterns. Captain Wong, still connected to the system, redirects the vast energies of the quantum network. Instead of allowing the predecessors to override human consciousness, she redefines the parameters of connection. The network transforms from a tool of domination into a medium of shared experience, a way for different species to truly understand one another. "What have you done?" asks the Lid Centaurian as Wong collapses from the interface, caught by Vash's forearms. "I rewrote the core protocols," Wong gasps, her mind still reeling from the experience. "Humans weren't meant to be vessels. We were meant to be bridges." Around them, the facility begins to destabilize as ancient systems overload from the unexpected command path. The combined team barely escapes to the inquiry before the installation tears itself apart, the energy containment systems failing as the predecessor's million-year plan collapses in minutes. Before disconnecting, Wong initiated a massive data transfer, downloading the complete technological and cultural knowledge of the predecessors, not to use as they intended, but to understand and ensure such manipulation never happens again. 6 months later, a transformed humanity has withdrawn from its conquered worlds, establishing diplomatic relations instead. The quantum network, now understood and controlled rather than controlling, allows for unprecedented communication and empathy between species. Many of the refugee species cautiously return to their homeworlds, while others choose to establish new colonies or integrate with human society. Admiral Chen, his mind forever altered by the alien memories he carries, leads the newly formed Galactic Reconciliation Commission, working to repair the damage caused by centuries of engineered expansion. "We were weapons once," he tells the first gathering of representatives from 27 formerly conquered or displaced species. "Now we choose to be builders." Dr. Okafor heads research into safely modifying the quantum structures to enhance communication while preventing any future attempts at manipulation. Under her guidance, humans and aliens work together to understand the technology that once threatened to erase them all. And Captain Wong, forever changed by her connection to the predecessor system, works with Centaurian telepaths to develop a new form of interspecies communication, one based on mutual understanding rather than control. The irony, Wong tells Vash as they watch the construction of the new Nexus, a true cooperative station built in neutral space, is that the predecessors nearly succeeded. They wanted to transcend their physical limitations through us. And instead, Vash asks. Wong smiles, watching ships from a dozen worlds dock peacefully together. "We're doing it our way. Not by becoming them, but by becoming more ourselves. Not by conquest, but by connection." The last transmission from the dying predecessor system revealed one final truth. They had done this before, in other galaxies, always engineering a final species to serve as their vessels. But none had ever broken free of the programming. Humanity, with its contradictory nature of conquest and compassion, aggression and empathy, was the first to recognize its chains and choose to remove them. In the end, what made humans the perfect weapon was also what allowed them to choose not to be one: their capacity for change.